Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Silverstone for another round of the ERA Sunday Championship. This time round, we're going to be having a lot of fun because we have combined our Platinum, our Diamond, and our Golds all together for round 5 here at Silverstone. And it's going to be a wild, wild ride nonetheless. And keep an eye out a couple of corners because we do know Silverstone is tricky. Maggots and Beckets, of course, being the trickiest of them all to try and get them all sorted out. Cops is going to be a difficult one for most drivers. If you want to go side by side, well, cautionary tale has to go to the outside line because you can quite get easily thrown off. And that is going to be a difficult one. That being said, let's go and take a look down at our grid because drivers are getting a little bit of free practice at the moment to get themselves all sorted out and be able to just get their eyes in for tonight. And it's going to be a wild one, rest assured. That being said, let's take a look at the championship because, well, there's quite a bit going on here and we need to discuss this because we've got our golds, we've got our platinums, and we've got our diamonds all together. Take a look towards our golds. It is Ike Sky who is leading the pack. He's hoping to really walk away with some good points at the moment. He's running with 62 points as it stands. And then we've got Lewis Knight that will be looking to try and dethrone him, running in second place. Scott Reynolds, a little bit further down, will be looking to make up his positions. He's lying in third place as it stands. And Nicholas Porras, David Roth, Federico Calgero, along with Samuel Jaden, Liam Smith, and Blake Moore lying in 9th position in the Gold Championship are the drivers you need to keep an eye out for as they really put the hammer down. Drivers to take a look in our Platinum class, though, is going to be Camille Hassan, looking to really put up the pace. So Lewis Knight here is our second place of our Gold. And Camille's son is first of our Platinums. Now, I'm just trying to take a look. I don't actually see him in the server, but I can be mistaken. No, there he is. Camille's son leading our Platinums. And then Martin Spritzer is going and running second in our Platinums. Nico Lawrence will be running up in third place of our Platinum. So he's hoping to really put some times on the board to move him up through the order, but they will be chased down by Glenn Smith. Glenn Smith's had a few rough races to put him down into fourth place. He's missed out Watkins Glen, and that will be a bit of a hamper to his championship. Then we move on to our diamonds because that's where it's getting a little bit on the wild side. Christoph Peterson will be leading out that pack along with Darius hoping to try and fight it out. And Mahayath Musa running in third place. Michael Castro will be trying to get a little bit more of a run on him. As he lies in fourth place. Then Thomas Moulton in fifth. Chris Wall in sixth. Seventh is Sean Skitter. Paul Fenton in eighth. Craig Hewlett in ninth. 10th is Stephen Milano James. And Teddy Blonder going and rounding out our diamonds. So there's still lots to go on here, and drivers are going to really have to push themselves to the limit. But that being said, I'm sure everyone's sick and tired of hearing my voice, and we want to bring in some of the engine sounds as they come barreling through, going and screaming to all high of nature. So, lots to talk about here, lots online for the championship. A bit of free practice is going to change it up. And David Roth, who is currently going and fighting it out of our gold. He's at the top of our gold. Goes and loses out that top spot to Scott Reynolds, who's running third of our gold. So David Roth is fifth in the championship of the gold. And Reynolds is running third in the championship. Michael Castro, who is currently running second on the track, is fourth of our diamond. So it really shows you how close the championships truly are between one another and who's going to be able to get the run here tonight. Lots and lots of questions. We do see a couple of drivers coming out into the server, and Darius being one of them, who is getting himself out on track. He's hoping to really lean into a fighting chance against Christoph Peterson as they are fighting it out for the championship. So far, Christoph Peterson is running with 56 points, and with Darius, he's running 48 points. So a little bit of a drop between the two of them. Mahath Musa actually tying up points with Darius, running on 48 points as well. So Darius has got to ensure he keeps ahead of Mahath Musa if he wants to ensure a good running pack order here and be able to move his way up through the order. So not going to be an easy time. Chris Wiggins out on the track running the 296 for the operator. Chris hoping to really step it up, and he is running in the gold class and really looking to put on a great show here tonight. So Chris is not in the gold class. He would be running in the diamond class. Chris Wiggins, do apologize as he looks to make his way around. So Chris hoping that his times will be enough to move him up through the order and stand above likes of Lucas Kolob, who is fighting out with Riloski. Wiggins still needs to get some times out on the board for the championship. At the moment, this will be his championship scoring in the gold division. Sean Skitter hoping that he can really have a good race. Unfortunately, Spa was not too grand for him, and fellow teammate Paul Fenter also had a nightmare of a run. But Michael Castro still putting in some great times, and Scott Reynolds hoping that he can really power the Mustang to the sharp end of the field, sporting the American flag all over the car, looking absolutely patriot. You can hear the bald eagle screaming in the distance as our cars make their way through. So, as our practice session runs its course, we will be moving on to our qualifying session. 10 minutes for our drivers to be able to get their lap times in. Not an easy time. It's a free-for-all of note, where the drivers are going to just have to slam their cars in to the pits and get it all sorted out and be able to get into a good running order here at Silverstone. And it's all looking pretty okay. A little bit cloudy at the moment, and that is going to play into the hands of cooler temperatures on the tires. And with Silverstone being known to go and rip tires apart and unfortunately land up with a few problems, you've got to be very cautious about it. The higher tire degradation on this track can be detrimental to the running order. So you've got to ensure you carry the momentum through. You've got to keep those tires in a good enough nick to be able to run the course through them. Everyone hoping that they can get a good run here at Silverstone. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us here at ERA. Glad to have you all. And if you are interested in joining in with all the action, this is our pro division of sorts. Our platinum, our gold, and our diamonds all racing together. But we do have a server too, which is for our bronze. It's your pro-am class, your am class. Everyone generally learning, and you're more than welcome to go and take a look at our server too. Just go and click on the link. Join Evolution Racing Academy. We do tons and tons of racings, not only on a Sunday, but during the course of the week as well, with some fun mix of vehicles. Whether we enjoy GT4s, a mix up with GT2s, we got it all. And also go and work with our fellow leagues to even bring you some hardcore endurance races. Actually, one coming up on the 12th of November. Best go and get your entries in for that. That'll be the 4 hours of Messino. But that being said, as our cars make their way out onto the track, we got the clear. And now it's time to go racing. So, got a bit of qualifying. 15 minutes. Frederico getting out to the track. Glenn Smith looking to get out and going. Maya Thwissa waiting it out. Christoph Peterson first out the blocks for our pros. That is our diamonds. Then we got Michael Castro weighing in the pits, and Christoph Lutzky going and running with that Hollow Knight livery, looking absolutely gorgeous, I might say, as he looks to power his way with the McLaren. Ike Sky leading out the championship for the gold division, will be looking to beat out likes of Lewis Knight. Liam Smith running in 9th, 10th. Blake Moore hoping to get a little bit more underneath his belt at this stage of the game. Chris Wall looking to go and really send it. Scott Reynolds will try and gain a little bit of time. Sean Skitter hoping to move his way up through the order, with Darius chasing him down. Lewis Knight running second in our gold championship, is off by a couple of points but can score majorly here. Followed by Nicholas Porras, Nico Lawrence, David Roth, Terence Ferreira in the pits. Coming out, Simon Kusat, Lucas Collab, Chris Wiggins, and along with Flo Scup, Camille Hassan, Patrick Billies, Thomas Moton, Martin Spritzer, and Stephen Milano James going and make their way around the track. So quite a few drivers out here, 28 cars starting it out, and 28 cars starting off their run for the top order here for round 5 of Silverstone. We got 7 rounds, so as it slowly ticks away, we are into the final stages of this championship. It's all or nothing for our drivers to maximize the points here tonight and to ensure that they carry enough come the end of the championship to go and send it for the win here at ERA, Evolution Racing Academy. And Sunday Championship Season 11 is only here to crown the new king, or possibly a returning king of Christoph Peterson might be able to hold the championship if Darius doesn't come into play for him. And with that, Darius had the worst run at Spa, only going and scoring 6 points due to a variety of problems. He landed up not only having a damage to his car from the start of the race, he landed up with drive-through penalties, stop-go, 30-second penalties, absolutely got ripped apart, start to finish on that run, and now just having to try and figure out what he can do to maximize his running order. And just getting some news from Paul Fenter that he's going to be missing out a little bit of the racing today. He's actually going and playing in the snow here in South Africa with his little one. So going and having a bit of fun. Always great to see. Guys going and really rocking out and having an absolute ball as our drivers really start to put down the times, going as fast as they can. Frederico, unfortunately, into the wall. Glenn Smith going to carry a lot of momentum. But Frederico going and just having that rear step out underneath him, lands up, putting it into the wall. He's going to have to get back to the pits and try get back out onto the track. But we'll have to wait for a very, very busy circuit to calm down as Glenn Smith puts the first time on the board, a 158.66. Christoph Peterson goes and beats him out with a 157.6. And Martin Spritzer running in third place. He goes and drops down to fourth. Chris Wall goes and puts in a time of 159. David Roth going and putting in a great time. Puts a 159.4 on his run. So time starting to come in. And Rudsky, who's dropping down to 9th place. Sky down to 12th. And Leon Smith, who is now down to 14th with that 2:07. But Christoph Peterson will have to keep an eye out. Darius put a lap time down of 158.6. He's got to try and figure out how he can knock off a second to catch up to the likes of Christoph Peterson, Glenn Smith, who is looking to really fight it out, leading out his class with Chris Wiggins all over the back of him. And then Chris Wiggins has not scored any points in his class, so this is going to be a very interesting time for Wiggins to make his debut running and go for a proper charge after Glenn Smith, who's running 4th in the championship as it stands. Mon Spritzer, who's running 2nd in the championship, is currently 7th on the grid thus far. Oh, forget that. He goes down. Michael Castro puts himself up into 3rd place. Castro done a fantastic job throughout the season. Now in 3rd place. He is running 4th in the championship, looking to score big. Mahayath Musa, though, who is 3rd in the championship, running in 2nd place, put a 158.2, so getting closer to Christoph Peterson's time. Everyone's trying to get a little bit closer to that Honda. Peterson currently running the fastest through sectors. He's 0.3 up on his personal best. Can he carry it through, though, to really dig it in for that 156? As he comes across the line, a 157.3 going and opening up that gap by nearly a second to Mahayath Musa. Michael Castro, Mahayath Musa, Darius, Glenn Smith, Chris Wall, Chris Higgins, Thomas Motan, who is also trying to make a little bit of time at the moment, really needs to dig his teeth in here. Terence Ferreira on for a better charge, running 3rd in class. As for the starting order, David Roth, though, has been impressive with the gold class. He has really moved up into 10th place as it stands, and is currently 0.2 up on his personal lap time. Can he get it improved? Can he stand up on the charts to keep ahead of the likes of Sky, who is the championship leader for the gold? Peterson, who leads out the diamond class, needs to do everything he can, because Darius came back at him with a 157.4, only 0.1 of a second off Peterson's time, with a 488 Ferrari in these cool conditions right here at Silverstone for round 5 of the championship. This is where it gets a little bit on the tense side for everyone looking to try and get the climb. Who's going to be able to stand up at the end of season 11 to be able to carry on with this fight? It's going to be a monumental challenge. It's going to be a monumental charge. Peterson at the moment is currently 0.4 up. He's not done yet by setting absolute blistering times. He's caught behind Glenn Smith, and he's going to just pull himself along a little bit in the slipstream to just try and carry it through. 0.5 up. This is actually helping him at the moment, but he needs to make short work of that Ferrari. And Glenn Smith, who is trying to just keep up the momentum, is up 0.2 of his personal lap time. Just needs to get a little bit more pace. 0.3. Oh, he moves out of the way. Gets 6th, but he cost himself a bit of time there. Unfortunately, drops him down the order. So just as he had that little bit more pace, that's a big loss on his part to just try and get that momentum. But Christoph Peterson, a 156.9. Will Darius be able to answer with a 56? Not this time around, with a 57.605. Mahayath Musa, though, trying to give it everything he's got. Thomas Mutton running in 5th place. Sean Skitter in 6th. Glenn Smith in 7th. 8th is Michael Castro. David Roth, Chris Wall, Terence Ferreira, Lewis Knight running 2nd in the Gold Championship, keeping ahead of the leader of the Gold Championship, Ike Sky. Lucas Kolob going to be chasing down, along with Nicholas Porras, Christoph Rulitsky, Simon Kussert, Martin Spritzer, Skurt Reynolds, Nico Lawrence, Patrick Billies. Also trying to make his way, Federico Calgero, 24th and 25th, Blake Moore, Liam Smith, and Stephen Milano James, and Dave Young out onto the track, lying in 28th position as it stands. So drivers trying to get a little bit more pace. Sean Skitter stopped in the dirt. Nico Lawrence going and landing up, stopped and back to pits. So he's going to have to figure out where he's going to go here. Darius not getting the lap times to go and get that top spot. Unfortunately, bells off into the dirt, reverses it back, and he's just trying to get himself sorted. Chris Wiggins will be gaining that little bit of time to carry the momentum through as it stands. But difficult times indeed of who's going to be able to really charge their way to the sharp end of this field. It's not going to be an easy time out here. Chris, though, has really shown off great talent for the Platinum class. And Chris Wiggins hoping they could score big here tonight. But at the moment, he is well enough ahead of Glenn Smith, who is lying 4th in the class championship. He's down in 7th position, so Wiggins has properly laid it in there with a 57.6, which is on par with our Diamond drivers. So to verse it out there, he's done an absolutely fantastic job for the Platinum class. Michael Castro, though, trying to make up some time. 0.4, he actually lost out that little bit, trying to get past Federico, and now needs to just get a little bit of momentum. Oh, the Mustang of Terence Ferreira not able to make it as well. David Roth going and pushing as hard as he can, leading out the golds on the grid. He wants to ensure a proper run all the way through. Scott Reynolds running in 11th position, and Flo Scrub going and making his way through in 12th position. He's hoping that it will just be enough to get him down to the wire on it. Scott Reynolds is going to have to really get a bit of pace underneath him to ensure he stays in for the fight. It's going to be a proper chase down. Christoph Rulitsky will be aiming to try and get a little bit more pace underneath him. Suddenly, Lucas Kollab going and closing up in time. So far, it's going to be a monumental fight. 3 minutes and 27 seconds to go. Christoph Peterson, Darius, and Chris Wiggins are all going back and forth, throwing in the fastest lap times. And I do feel that Chris may actually be moving up at this rate. His times have moved up. And in terms of licensing that we have here in ERA to try and keep everyone's times close together, we've got our diamonds, our platinums, our golds, our bronze, that goes and gives a choice of who's got a pro-am, a pro, or an am time, depending on where you fit, your consistency, your times, your results, and even over training nights, which we do have here at ERA, goes and helps decide where you can race, what best suits you, what's best going to test your skill, and where you're going to have the most fun going door to door. Well, Wiggins at this point going and putting himself up into second place with a 157.387. Christoph Peterson was able to do a 156.9, but that is only 0.4 of a second to Wiggins. Darius will be scratching his head at this point, trying to figure out where on earth did this Platinum driver get so much pace underneath him. Came out of nowhere here and has really put a proper charge to move his way up through the order. Michael Castro will look to also gain a bit of time. Not going to be an easy chase, though. He's going to have to really dig deep if he wants to make a big impact into his championship running. Now remember, there is a drop round. Drivers will have a drop round in the championship, but ideally you want to use a drop round for your worst round, but you've gone and scored every round. Purely on the fact of you score every round, you drop your worst, you're still maximizing as many points as possible. So missing out a race doesn't help you on that one, or even going and just quitting during the course of the race doesn't help you. You want to try and get to that finish line, especially with 28 cars. Anything can happen. Liam Smith, who's at the back of the field, still trying to put in a good time and catching up to Blake Moore. They're running 2 minutes. They're the only two cars that are running 2 minutes. Everyone is sub 2 minutes as it stands. Not an easy chance out there for the drivers. Are going to have to really figure out what's going to work out for them. Darius picking up the pace, 0.1 of a second. Michael Castro, 0.1 of a second. Sean Skitter up 0.3 of a second as he tries to make his way through. So Sean Skitter's not hanging around at the moment. He wants to really move his way up through the order, just dropping down to 6th place. He's got to really dig it in deep to try and make a little bit more momentum, as quite a few cars dropping a wheel just out of the Maggots and Beckett's. So they're going to have to really clean up the act there, not to go and get caught out. Thomas Morton in the Mustang, the first of the front engines, has been on a proper charge. The Palinka Power Mustang has been hanging on to go and fight it out for the top spots throughout the entire season. and has been improving through and through. So he's hoping to really take that Mustang to the front in charge, considering the championship is not done and dusted for him. He's running 5th in it. Consistency is key. He needs to really keep in the proper charge. But we at the end, Chris Wiggins comes across the line, Michael Castro, Glenn Smith, Sean Skitter, all coming across the line as they fight their way through, hoping that they can really carry the momentum through. But Thomas Button, unfortunately, doesn't look like he's going to improve his time. Christoph Peterson trying to get a little bit more pace underneath him. Darius currently 0.1 of a second. He hasn't crossed the line as yet, but quite a few drivers just getting across that line have to say, well, that's where I am. That's where I'm going to start. And let's see how the race goes. Darius and Christoph still pushing to just try and get those final laps in at the moment. Thomas as well, Flow Scrub, Mon Spitzer, who's trying to get his way through. Nicholas Porras trying to also just push himself that little bit more out the box. As it stands, it's going to be a bit of hard work at the moment for all the drivers to really get it through. 1 minute 51 till you can go and get across that line. It's going to really have to dig deep for all 3 classes for round 5 of the championship. 7 rounds are on the cards for the championship, and it's maximizing points as Christoph Peterson takes that top spot, and it looks like no one else will be able to get that top running order. So well done to Christoph. But let's see how it's going to do as we get ready to rock and roll for our race. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get ready for round 5. And this is going to be a proper run. Now, we have to talk about if you've missed out all the races up until now. Firstly, where have you been? And welcome to ERA. Thank you for joining us. But once again, where have you been? It's been an exciting championship. It's been a close championship. But let me go and run you through a couple of bits of the order, because we're going to go down to the grid and you will see drivers getting time penalties added onto them. Now, sounds weird. Why on earth do you want to have time penalties? Let me go and answer that question, because it gets rather exciting. They're called success penalties, and that is to bring the grids closer to one another. So the better you do, the more you have a success penalty put on you, the more you have to overcome. Challenging the driver to think out the box. What do they need to do? How are they going to move up through the order? And where are they going to get the climb from? They're going to have to get rid of like 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, which will serve in a mandatory pit stop to get it all done and dusted. Yep, you heard me right. Mandatory pit stop. You don't have to change tires. You just have to put 1 liter of fuel in the car to ensure that you can go up in the running order. Now, easy to think about, difficult in practice. Remember this. This is a high degrading circuit. It goes and wears down the tires quite a bit, and you're going to have to really think what's going to happen. It's going to be a bit of a challenging one, because your tires are going to take a bit of abuse. When are you going to pull into the pits? When are you going to be able to get out of the pits? Where are you going to filter out, especially with the different classes? And where are you going to try and battle your way to the front? Undercuts, overcuts, that is where it all leads to, as our drivers will have to start thinking about that little process every step of the way. Not an easy time, not a easy way to think of things, but it needs to happen. Going to have to really start working it out. And with 1 mandatory pit stop with a 1-hour race, it's all or nothing for these drivers. That being said, though, let's go down to our grid and take a look at our running order, because, man oh man, we have got such beautiful cars lined up here tonight for the ERA. And I've got to say, we're in for an absolute wild ride nonetheless, with everyone looking to try and push themselves that little bit more to try and get themselves out of the box and ensure they are in good fighting order. As we will jump to Tim in the helicam, you can see everyone lining up. 28 cars will be starting, 3 different classes, gold, diamond and platinum, all going and duking it out, with the likes of diamond being your fastest of drivers. Platinum is your pro-am, gold is essentially your am, in server 1. We do have 2 servers running, and they will be having a bit of fun out there. So great to see a good mixture of drivers, a good mixture of cars looking to really throw their way up through the order. And anything can happen. It's going to be a bit of a challenging time out there for all our drivers looking to really get the run up. Christoph Peterson in the Honda, lined up against his rival in second place, Darius, looking to really get an early jump on him. And as you can see, the time penalty starting to come in. Christoph Peterson got 5-second time penalty to overcome. Michael Castro has got 10-second penalty to overcome. Mahith Musa will have a 15-second penalty. And then we've got a couple of interesting penalties coming in. And this is for incidents. Camille's son getting a drive-through penalty that he's going to have to serve. So that's 2 pit stops for him. And that, unfortunately, is for going and causing a bit of havoc in the previous race. Lucas Kolob, lying in 17th, has got 5 seconds. Nicholas Porras has got 5 seconds. Martin Spritzer has got 10 seconds. And then Sky is sitting with 15 seconds after his win. And then Federico Calgero has got 10 seconds to try and get his pit stop all done and dusted. Difficult times out there, challenging for our drivers, and Success Ballast coming into play to work it out, but 1 penalty dished out being the drive-through penalty, and that unfortunately is going to change Hassan's outlook in the entire race. He's going to have to really start to figure out what it's going to be. A top 10 may not be on the cards for him, but he's got to look at where he sits in the long term, because he is right behind Terence Ferreira, and they are currently lying 4th and 5th place thus far for the Platinum class. But Chris Wiggins, who is running first, is ahead of Glenn Smith in 5th place. So Glenn's going to have to keep a very close eye on what Wiggins is going to do here. Both have no time penalties for their pit stop, and they will have to try and get a little bit of momentum to claw their way through the running order. So it's going to be a bit of a worry situation for them, and seeing where they can end up as a couple of cars dropping down off their jacks, got their tires on, nicely heated, 10 seconds before the green lights go on, and we will have our cars going in formation, rolling behind the safety car, well, virtual safety car. And there we go, everyone down on the track, green lights will go, allow the cars to move. Christoph Peterson taking off the pack and will be moving his way through. So let's take a look at our running order, folks, because it's a wild one. As we take a look to the ERA Sunday Championship, Christoph Peterson out in first place. Darius Swasmail Sky, I'll never get that surname right, but Darius going and running in second. Chris Wiggins in third. 4th place, Michael Castro, Glenn Smith, Sean Skitter, Thomas Martin, Mahith Musa, Stephen Milano, James, Chris Wall, David Roth, Terence Ferreira, Camille Sun, Skirt Reynolds, Flo Scrupp, Christoph Rolutsky, along with Lucas Kolob, Nicholas Porras, Martin Spritzer, Dave Young, Lewis Knight, ahead of championship rival like Sky, Nico Lawrence, Simon Cussett, Federico Calgero, Liam Smith, Patrick Bells, and Blake Moore going and rounding out our grid. 28 cars looking to really get the jump on the field. You can see everyone making their way around, trying to drag their brakes a little bit, try and get a little bit more movement underneath them, and also build up a bit of tire temperature here, because it's going to be a bit of a difficult one. Who's going to be able to break away? Darius hunting down for a couple of points here tonight. He needs to score big if he wishes to stay in the fight, with Christoph Peterson on 56 points, Darius on 48, Camille Sun on 55, with Martin Spritzer running on 43. But remember, Camille's got that drive-through penalty, so he's going to have to really keep an eye on Martin, where exactly he comes out to be able to take the fight to him. And then Sky will have to keep an eye for Lewis Knight, who is starting ahead of him. So Lewis Knight ahead of Sky is going to make life rather challenging for our gold division. And Sky at the moment is running on 62 points. Knight running on 55 points. Camille Sun on 55 points. Martin Spitzer on 43 points. So it's all a very, very close run. You can see the drivers going and filtering their way through. A couple of things being utilized here. A couple of different ways that drivers are sorting themselves out. And that is brake drag. So they're going and holding on the brakes for quite a bit, allowing heat to build up. That bleeds into the rim. The rim starts heating up, and that goes into the cocks of the tires and allows to get the tire temperatures up to optimal conditions, or as close as you can. The brakes will be absolutely cooked to get going, so you got to be careful not to do it too much, otherwise you will induce brake fade as the race continues, because you've gone and overheated them, and you're going to have to try and cool them down by not using them as much. You're going to have to just lift and coast to be able to get it right. 1 hour worth of racing and a mandatory pit stop is going to make life a little bit more interesting. I do expect to see drivers push themselves a little bit further in the race, though, to try and ensure that they stand up through the top order. So expect roughly about the 45-minute mark. That's where we're going to see drivers pulling into the pits. We shouldn't see anything beforehand unless drivers are trying to get themselves sorted out. Camille's son might actually do his drive-through soon as he can to just clear it and then focus on the race once more. So it might be an idea for him to dive into the pits, clear the drive-through, and focus on the attack all the way up. So Christoph Peterson lines up. 70 kilometers an hour is where the drivers are. They have to sit within their box. They'll have a radar system saying slower, faster. You got to wait. You don't want to jump that, otherwise you will land up going and scoring a penalty. But Christoph Peterson rounding the final corner for round 5 right here at Silverstone of the ERA Sunday Championship. And we are about to go racing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And away we go. Christoph Peterson taking the jump ahead of Darius. Gets a great run. Chris Wiggins losing out a little bit of time as Michael Castro dives around the outside and gets a phenomenal run to him. Wiggins now going and battling out. Has Sean Skitter taking a good look. Glenn Smith trying to make up some time. Matthias Musa a little bit further down. Thomas Morton going and making his way through. Chris Wall staying right into the mix as we do see Stephen Milano James trying to do everything he can. A little bit of a argy-bargy situation there as they make their way through side by side. Chris Wall just hanging in for the fight. Camille's son a little bit further down is a bit trapped behind, and he has got likes of Terence Ferreira coming at him. Lucas Kolb going around the outside. Flo Skip and Christoph Rulitsky trying to break away early on. But Wiggins losing track of the top 3 has got Sean Skitter, who has got Glenn Smith and Thomas Morton all over the back of him. Thomas really hoping to get into the fray of things. Looks underneath the likes of Glenn Smith, just carrying a lot of momentum, both going very, very wide off the track. Maith Musa will have the run here to try and close up that gap, but you can see the whole train snaking around one another. Stephen Milano James also just trying everything he can. Camille's son dropping a little bit further back, and a lot of drivers just focusing on the outright attack as Terence Ferreira, big pass on David Roth, but loses out because he outbraked himself, tries to come back. And Terence now defending against Lucas Kolb. Lucas getting the drive. He's got Flo right behind him. Flo's going to try and follow as much of the momentum as possible with Christoph Rulitsky right behind him in chase and trying to really fight his way through. Stephen Malone James look for the pass on Mahath Musa. Couldn't quite get it all sunk in as drivers starting to get a little bit more comfortable with the pace, finding their rhythm here at Silverstone. That's what you need to do to start it off. You don't want to push yourself way too hard too early. Michael Castro all over the back of Darius. Remember, he's got 10 seconds he's going to have to serve during the course of his pit stop, where Darius has got none. And that is purely on the fact of Darius didn't have a great run at Spa last week. So he's going to have to really focus on the attack here. Castro, who did an absolutely phenomenal job, will need to try and get the pit stop done and dusted and ensure he can stay into the fight as he runs 4th in the championship. Scoring big points here tonight will help out. And considering Mahath Musa and Darius are running on the same lap, or same amount of points for the champ. Championship, Mahith Musa has got 15 seconds to just try and cut that down. Not going to be an easy time for the running pack, but it is absolutely necessary for our drivers to really focus on what needs to be done to get that climb. Who's going to be able to really get their way up through the order? Michael Castro all over the back of Darius, hard on the brakes, tries to swing the car in, runs out a bit wide, drops the wheel on the dirt, and just not getting as much momentum as he would like as they break into the hairpin. Darius and Michael Castro really going to war with one another. Chris Wiggins and Sean Skitter coming into the fray. Now, Skitter needs to get past Wiggins because at the moment he is lying 4th in the class and he's got Wiggins in between him and the rest of his championship rivals. So he's going to really have to get on the power to try and get underneath Wiggins, who is keeping him very, very honest at this point. Glenn Smith a little bit further back. Thomas Milton is keeping ahead of Mahith Musa, and Stephen Milano James in the Porsche going on the attack seems to be a little bit more comfortable over the BMW of Mahith Musa. Can out-corner him, but Mahith Musa carries a lot of momentum as he's keeping right into the slipstream of Thomas Milton. Thomas having a great time out there, pulling himself along. Stephen Milano James doing everything he can late on the brakes just to try and dip that nose in and ensure that he gets on the climb. So about 45 minutes is where we're expecting to see the pit stops go and get back into it. And our drivers will keep that in mind. So far, no drivers except for Camilo Sons actually serving his drive-through penalty. And he's got a stop-go 30-second as well. So, served his drive-through, but got off the button too early and scored himself a stop-go 30-second penalty on top of it. Oh man, talk about a day and a night going to absolute worst point. From going and fighting on the championship, he is way down the order, but serving that is going to mean he's going to serve his pit stop because he's going to do the 30-second penalty, go and put a bit of fuel in, and then race it to the end to try and ensure he stays within the fight. Not going to be an easy time out there. Thomas Milton got Mahith Musa and Stephen Milano James looking to get underneath. Mahith Musa couldn't get that quite done as yet. Mahith doing everything he can in the BMW, losing out as he suddenly has Stephen dive up on him. He's inside. Stephen trying to do everything he can for the Flying Lizard Motorsport. Stuck on the outside. He's going to have to really keep the power in. The Porsche just not having the legs on the BMW at the moment, but he is still staying in for the fight. Moves right across as Mahith Musa trying to snap that toe as quick as possible, but we do have a bit of contact for the 24 car and the 22. So let's go back and take a look. This is Nico Lawrence, and he's got Ike Sky behind him. So Sky in the Lexus, switching around, dives to the inside line, tries to carry a lot of momentum, a little bit of outbraking himself there, dives up on the inside. Oh! Sky into the side of Nico Lawrence, and that creates a whole heap of carnage in the process. So Sky landing up, putting a monster of a dent into Nico Lawrence. Unfortunately, that threw him way, way down the order, and also threw Sky down the order. Both will be running with a fair amount of damage to their cars. And now Nico Lawrence, who will be going and getting a little bit cross on that one, is trying to gain a little bit of ground. It's throwing him down the championship. Sky, who got a little bit desperate to get that pass done and dusted as he looks to try and close up on the rest of the grid. Not going to be an easy time there. David Roth and Terence Ferreira side by side as they make their way through. David going and allowing the pass to happen with Terence Ferreira. Suddenly it has Flo coming at him with the Aston Martin, going and looking to try and carve him up. Looks to the inside line, hard on the brakes, tries to bring the car through. Couldn't get it done. David Roth just leaning on the power a little bit earlier, but now is just feathering the throttle through. Lost that little bit of time. David Roth has got a problem because Flo right on the back of him. The Hearts of Racing, Flo Skip, is looking to just go for that inside line. Couldn't get the pass done and dusted, but we do see Terence Ferreira darting off track. He went and messed up the corner, comes back on ahead of Flo, and now Flo trying to go after him. David Roth goes a little bit wide. He loses out time. Terence Ferreira trying to come back at him, goes around the outside, puts it on the dirt, and allows Flo to get by. Dave Young tries to carry the momentum. He's up on the inside. Terence Ferreira doing everything he can just to keep it all in check as they put the power down. But it is a yellow flag for the number 50 as Folgero landing up with a bit of a problem as Krzysztof Rolucki dives up on the inside of Dave Young. And the McLaren just trying to carry as much momentum. The 720S just not having the legs on the Aston Martin AMR V8. So Krzysztof Rolucki really tries to get the power down as so far Christoph Pearson puts in the fastest lap time of the race. 1:57.4 as the quickest lap time. He's trying to break away from the rest of the field. But an interesting fight is happening in the mid-pack and a variety of different classes from our gold and platinum all having a good go at one another, which is always the interesting take to it because our golds are seemingly our AM class relative to that, but they have been putting in an absolute grand performance as Flo chasing down David Roth. They are fighting it out for the AMs at the moment. Well, the golds. Flo chasing down David Roth needs to try and get that pass done and dusted as they're racing for first in class. David Roth leading it out. Oh, nearly having Flo right into the back of him. Had to take evasive maneuvers there, under braking. Carried a little bit too much momentum, and that has allowed Terence Ferreira to close up. But take a look, Dave Young and Krzysztof Rolucki all in the train. Dave Young looks to the inside, backing out, second guesses it, looks at once again. Can't quite make up his mind on this one, whether he wants to go on the attack or not. And that is going and challenging it. Terence Ferreira goes a deep sin, outbrakes himself, falls off the track. Dave Young's going to capitalize here, gets the pass done, and now coming around the outside, gets a lot of momentum. Terence Ferreira down the order will have to deal with the McLaren of Krzysztof Rolucki as it stands. So Terence Ferreira just going and sinking it in a little too deep every step of the way. Now needs to try and bring himself back into the fray of things. Rolucki looking to go for the inside line. Terence Ferreira stopping dead on the apex as he tries to get underneath. Dave Young not having an easy time out there as they fight it out. All three running in the diamond class will have to try and make their way through. Sorry, they're running in the platinum class as they really look to try and carry a lot of momentum at the moment on the running order. But back up to the top, it is Christoph Peterson with Darius running in second place, 2 seconds behind Michael Castro running in third. And at the moment, they are all three running first, second, and third in the diamond class. In first of the platinum, Chris Wiggins running ahead of Sean Skitter with second of the platinum class. Glenn Smith trying to chase him down. A little bit further back is Thomas Morton, Mahayath Musa onto the back of him, Stephen Milano James, Chris Wall, and third of the diamond class, Lucas Kolab of the ERA racing team trying to make up some time. Remember, he's got 5 seconds to shake off at this point. David Roth and Flo Scrub are running first and second of our golds with the likes of Dave Young still in the fight with Terence Ferreira, Krzysztof Rolucki. Liam Smith is running third of the golds for the 2ID Matty ERA. And the 2ID really looking to put down as much pace as possible. Stephen Milano James getting the pass done on Thomas Morton. And it landed up with a little bit of contact between the two. I think just maybe a bit of paint rubbing came into it. Thomas Morton gets past and has Mahayath Musa get around him. Looks around the outside. Mustang not having easy time out there. Has a little bit of dirt on the wheels. That's going to lose a bit of traction. And suddenly has Steven takes a dive. A little bit of contact between the two, but just enough to rub paint with one another. But no one having any two problems there. So great running between them all. But Thomas now a little bit further down than planned. He's going to have to think about his battle. Patrick Bellies is fighting it out with the likes of Simon Cussett. Very interesting to see these two. Not often we get to chat about it. Patrick, part of our gold, and is properly having a bit of fun with BMW M Red Bull Sim Racing team. And now going and dealing with Audi ABT Cussett Racing. Simon Cussett chasing down, looking to really close up the gap. Patrick Bellies of the BMW M Red Bull team is really stepping it up for the golds. He's hoping to carry a lot of momentum through at the moment. Scott Reynolds fighting it out also with one of his championship rivals of Lewis Knight on the back of him. The Godzilla Racing Machine trying to close up. They got Nicholas Porras, Nico Lawrence, Blake Moore and Camille Sun, who's running in 27th. So we have had one car retire, unfortunately, at the moment. That is going to be a rough one for our drivers, but Camille Sun, got to give it up for the chap. He's still serving his time back into the pits after coming in for another pit stop, done a drive through, did a stop go 30-second. Now he's 15 seconds that he needs to serve, pulls into the pits. He's had the worst race thus far, but he is still going, and honestly, I take my hat off to the chap for it. Scott Reynolds looks to try and get past Sky, couldn't quite get it done, runs out wide. Lewis Knight looking to try and get past the both of them as they race it out, each fighting for the gold championship, each running in first, second and third, with the likes of Sky running in first, Lewis Knight in second, and Reynolds running in third in the championship, each trying to make their names here and done. Lewis Knight up on the inside, takes the dive, and Reynolds carrying a lot of momentum, really trying to press him into the fringes. That's dropped him down a little bit, allows Lewis Knight to get a little bit of a problem as Nicholas Porras, who tries to gain a bit of time. The Aston Martin sporting a bit of damage as it stands, as they fight their way through. Not an easy time. Nonetheless, everyone having to really gain a little bit here. A lot of gains, a lot of losses as it stands, but everyone having to work their way through. And Camille's son looks like he has thrown in the towel, unfortunately, going and saying, well, that's me done for the night. And he will be going and pulling in. Oh, man, just absolutely heartbreaking for the driver after so much. He's done everything he could to fight it out and just couldn't get it done and dusted to the end. Dave Young onto the back of Flo Skip, and Flo trying to carry a lot of the momentum through as it stands, as he makes his way around the track, really trying to sink it in as deep as possible to get it all sorted out. Flo hoping that he can carry a lot of momentum as Dave really hunting down 0.2 of a second behind him, looks to switch it up to the outside line, couldn't quite get it all hooked in as he makes his way through, really having to get into the fray of things as they battle out. Dave Young trying everything he can to try close up that gap as fast as possible. And Flo not going to make it easy on this point, really going and pulling him along, and Skip needs to try and concentrate on his race of David Roth. If Dave Young is a little bit quicker, he's going to have to let them go by. As we do see Simon Kusat, he's actually landed up into the dirt and losing a bit of time to both Sky and Reynolds as he darts across. Reynolds tries to keep up the pace. Lewis Knight having to try and figure out where he can go. Didn't quite expect Simon to move across and gets back into it. So definitely a bit of a rough time out there. But once again, a couple of accidents starting to come into the fray. The 246 car going and landing into a bit of a problem. That was Stephen Milano James in the Porsche, a little bit higher up. He was finding out. There's Thomas Morton in the Mustang closing up. Did they outbrake one another? Yeah, into the hairpin. And a little bit of contact. Nothing too bad there as they got the momentum through. So not too bad. But it did land up with Thomas Morton actually a little bit further back than planned. So number 21 getting involved in another ding-dong battle. And that was Simon once again going and chasing him down. So Simon not having an easy fight out there. And Thomas also coming back at him. Side by side, the two of them go. Wall chasing him down at the back. Thomas drops a wheel on the dirt. Being a bit cautious there. Nearly getting involved in a big accident, and that allowed Chris Wall to get the momentum to get that pass done and dusted. Terence Ferreira still on the charge. He has got Christoph Rolutsky trying to come at him. Close go, defensive inside line to try and hold him at bay. Will carry a lot of momentum through. The Aston Martin having a great pass there and a great bit of challenge to ensure he stays in the fight. Terrence needing to really go and battle his way through. So good to see a great battle going and raging on for our drivers as they focus on their fight here tonight for the ERA. Oh no, we do have Flo off the circuit and Terence Ferreira having to go and avoid it. Flo landed up off the circuit for the 912. What on earth happened to the Aston Martin? Flo trying to keep it all together. Did he outbrake himself? He was chasing down one of the LNRs. He's got Terence Ferreira all over the back of him. Goes on to the anchors. Terence Ferreira. Oh no, Terence bumping him from behind. And that was that. Flo will be sporting a bit of damage. And Terence will definitely get a bit of an nasty ouch to that one. Sky getting a drive-through penalty put onto him. That is gonna hurt because that will be for going and exceeding track limits. Oh man, absolute devastation for his championship, and Lewis Knight will be smiling ear to ear on that one. Still got to go and get his time done for Sky. He's got to go and stop for 15 seconds in the box. Definitely not ideal circumstances as Terence Ferreira into the pits. I think he is going to be not very happy with that one, and it looks like we have lost him. So Terence Ferreira going and retiring the car. Blake Moore running in 24th position. Sky in 25th. So Sky's down the order. Simon Kusa trying to make up a little bit of time at the moment as he fights his way through. Not an easy battle nonetheless. It's all going and fighting it out and seeing how the drivers are going to really move their way up through the order as they battle their way through. Monumental fights nonetheless as they really challenge their way to the top end of the field. So Christoph Peterson, Darius and Michael Castro, followed by Chris Wiggins, Sean Skitter, Glenn Smith, Mahayath Musa, Stephen Milano James, Chris Wall, along with Thomas Morton, Lucas Kolob in 11th position, 12th, David Roth, along with Dave Young, Christoph Rolotsky, Martin Spritzer, Liam Smith, Patrick Bells, along with Flo Skip, Skirt Reynolds, Nico Lawrence, Nicholas Porras, Simon Kussert going and make his way through. And just apologies to Simon. Looks like livery hasn't pulled through despite the sync. It still hasn't pulled through, but we'll try and get that sorted out as quick as we can. Blake Moore now pulling into the pits, and Ike Sky going and moving his way. So Blake Moore will be serving his pit stop and will be the first one to serve his pit stop by the looks of it. Everyone else still needing to get that mandatory pit stop out of the way with 39 minutes to go. Now, I did say expect the 45-minute mark to be the pit stop window. Doesn't quite look like it's going to be the case here, as drivers are really needing to go and pick up the socks to try and get this pass done and dusted, to try and get it all sorted out. Thomas Morton all over the back of Chris Wall. Chris now keeping an eye on the Mustang. Two monstrous V8s, the Aston Martin going and fighting it out against the Ford Mustang GT3, the newest of the GT3 cars versus the oldest of the GT3 cars, the AMR V8. Well, second generation of the Aston Martins. The first generation was the likes of the V12 and was the last of the true Aston Martins before they went and swapped out to Mercedes parts, which became the V8. Sean Skitter, though, gets a drive-through penalty. That is going to hurt his run on it because that goes and moves him up to 2 pit stops needing to be done during the course of this race. So we're starting to see those track limits become more and more effective at the moment as they gather a lot of time, really trying to fight their way through as they really go and tell the drivers to move forward. And unfortunately, everyone overstepping marks at this point. That unfortunately has to do to drivers running a little bit wider over the curves and does hamper out a lot of those times. So Sean Skitter will be kicking himself there as he tries to keep ahead of Glenn Smith, with Mahaith Musa close and chase. Chris Wiggins just ahead of him. as they fight their way on the running order. Myth Visser closing up the time. Has got Glenn Smith trying to make his way through. Thomas Morton now has completed his pit stop and will be coming out. Where down the field is the question. At the moment, he's running in 24th position as he drops down our leaderboard table. So he'll get it done. Blake Moore slowing up, allowing the rest of the field to come by. So Thomas Morton and Blake Moore have completed their mandatory pit stops as they run through. Now that is going to be the mark for everyone who's going to be able to get their pit stops done, because keep an eye out on the Mustang. Pitted a bit earlier and we'll try and keep the climb with 35 minutes in the race to get that pit stop done and dusted. It's never an easy fact here, especially with the drive-through starting to creep in. Drivers are going to have to keep this well in mind of when they're going to get that pit stop gone in. Now, to get a drive-through penalty, that means you exceeded track limits 3 times. You get a warning. You get Jim comes over the radio. It says first warning, second warning, third warning, and then you get the absolute crickets as you land up getting those stops. Patrick Bell's starting to feel the pressure as Flo looks up on the inside. Flo's going to try and get that pass done and dusted. Couldn't quite get it all tucked in on the inside. Going to try and get a little bit more pace underneath him and gets past the Red Bull Sim Racing team. So Patrick dropping down the order, really stuck it in for the fight, but Flo carrying a lot of momentum moves himself up through the order and will be smiling on that one as he looks to try and chase down Liam Smith that is running a little bit ahead. David Roth in 11th position, leading out our gold division. Liam Smith is second in the golds, along with Flo running in third, closely chased down by fourth, and Reynolds also hanging in the mix there, so don't count him out of the run just yet. Lewis Knight trying to make his way up through the order. He's ahead of his championship rival. He's going and chasing down Simon now. Simon in the Audi having a great time, but will be battling it out against the Nissan GTR, also known as Godzilla Racing. Lewis Knight hoping to score big here tonight and still needs to do his mandatory stop as well. So it's going to be a definite challenge on the way through. But it's going to be an interesting championship run for them, as Nicholas Horace will be running in 4th place in the championship. And at the moment, he is up into, that would be 6th place at the moment. Trying to chase down, he's carrying a bit of damage there. So trying to make up some time. As you see, Scott Reynolds chasing down onto Patrick Bells, and Patrick not hanging around at the moment, really fighting it out. Skirt trying to figure out where he can go for the pass, looking left, looking right, trying to see where he can get this all done and dusted. Dives up right onto the back of him, carries a lot of momentum. The Mustang carrying everything it can to line up next to Patrick. Patrick going late on the brakes, trying to bring himself back, but unfortunately Reynolds a little bit later on the brakes, gets that Mustang hooked in, stops dead on the apex, forcing Patrick to back out and having to lose out a lot of time there. Dave Young going and trying to get himself sorted, as we do see Sean Skitter serving that drive-through penalty, and he's able to get back out and racing. Still needing to do that mandatory pit stop though. Dave Young all over the back of David Roth as they catch up to Sean Skitter just ahead of them. 2 seconds as Roth gets a little bit unsteady in the 488 Ferrari. Suddenly Dave Young will try and close down the distance as fast as possible, getting into the toe, pulling himself along. A little bit of dirt getting kicked up right through Magaton Beckett, as that looked like Liam Smith going and dropping a wheel out. And it goes and loses out a little bit of momentum there. Christoph Peterson still leading out the top of the charts, with Darius running in second and Michael Castro in third. They are big gaps between them. Michael Castro 3 seconds behind Darius. Darius 8.6 seconds behind Christoph Peterson. But not having an easy time there. Nico Lawrence getting past Patrick now, as Patrick dropping down the order like a lead weight at this point, as we do see the 22 of Sky, and he's off, way off, trying to rejoin himself. And Sky, missing Magaton Beckett completely, gets himself back onto the track. Right, I'm curious of what happened there. Let's go to the helicam. Magaton Beckett tries to get it all turned in, gets it unsteady, tries to bring the car back, a little bit skew, and he just absolutely floored it in the dirt. Instead of attempting to try and bring it back onto the track, he just tries to carry it all the way through, loses out. Thomas Moton gets the pass done and dusted, but Sky goes and loses out a little bit more time, having an abysmal race at the moment on his run through. Stephen Milano James into the pits as he gets himself sorted. Mahath Musa onto the back of Glenn Smith, and it does look like, did we lose Stephen? It is very, very possible we've just lost Stephen Milano James, and unfortunately it does seem to be the case. Stephen out of the race. Not ideal circumstances there, but he is out of the race with a bit of a disconnect, and hopefully they could get him back in. That is a big change, because he has been in on absolute fight to try and close up in the championship, and also to score big here tonight. He's 10th in the championship. He's lost out at Watkins Glen, he lost out at Indianapolis, and now it looks like he's going to lose a couple of points here tonight unless he can get back in and racing. So hopefully they can find out what technical difficulties have gone on, and so they could get him back into the race at hand with 30 minutes left on the clock. It's all or nothing for our drivers to really make up the time. We do see a bit of an interesting one. Liam Smith coming out of the pits. Ike Sky in the pits. Nico Lawrence, Nicholas Paulus, and Simon Kussert is in the pits. They serving the pit stops. Liam Smith actually coming out, and oh, what on earth happened to him? He came out of the pit, stop go 30-second penalty, and is out of the race. So scored a stop go 30-second penalty, and now is out of the race, going and quitting because he scored that penalty and seeing no reason to continue. That is rather unfortunate. I mean, he's been on an absolute great time, and now leaves out his teammate high and dry. Michael Castro into the pits, and Chris Wall dives into the pits. Lucas Kolab comes into the pits. Christoph Rolutsky pulls into the pits. Quite a few drivers, unfortunately, just not seeing the light of day here today and getting caught out on the running order. So definitely not a fun time out there. So championships will definitely be shaken right now. Mahath Musa onto the back of Glenn Smith, who would have got the contact from his teammate, or fellow teammate of the 2ID, going and saying, listen, I'm out. I've scored that stop-go 30-second penalty, and going and retiring the car for it. Oh man, that is not ideal circumstances. So Glenn Smith going to have to really work on the charge here, dealing with Mahath Musa. Mahath Musa, remember, is in a different class to him. So Mahath Musa can actually get past if Glenn Smith wants to try and utilize him to push a little bit further up through to Chris Wiggins, just up the road from him. And Chris Wiggins at the moment is sitting roughly about 3 seconds, as we do see Loris moving out of the way. So Nicholas dives out of the way to allow Glenn Smith to come through, Mahath Musa as well. And got to take my hats off to Pulis on a great move right there, just allowing a little bit of room and saying, come on guys, you keep it out, you keep it going. Great stuff. Absolutely tremendous. Well, the bar to keep an eye out for is 12th position. Michael Castro is one to watch as Mahath Musa dives into the pits to get himself sorted. Chris Wiggins and Darius all throwing themselves into the pits as fast as possible. Michael Castro will be coming around to try and move his way up through the order, and he's the bar that you want to keep ahead of. Served his pit stop, 44.6. That's going to be fuel and tires and a little bit of repair work done to the car. David Roth, Sean Skitter, Mahath Musa, Chris Wiggins, Darius all into the pits. Christoph Peterson, Glenn Smith, they see no point to get in the pits as yet, especially as the time starts to tick away. Dave Young going to be stretching his legs as well, gets up into third place. Going to try and run it a little bit further. Flo Scope into the pits. Will Lewis Knight dive into the pits now that Flo has dived in? So Lewis, will he be considering to get the pit stop done and dusted in the Godzilla Racing? Yes, he does. He gets it in, And Chris White coming out of the pits with ahead of Darius, oddly enough. So Chris Wiggins gets ahead of Darius. And now this is going to change it up a little bit. Darius is going to have to try and figure out how he's going to get past Chris as quick as possible. Chris has been on a proper charge and has taken the fight to the sharp end of the field. Rolotsky, stop go, 30-second penalty. That is for speeding in pits. Getting a stop go for speeding in pits. Nico Lawrence getting a drive through, and that is for track limits exceeded, going and punishing him there. So both those drivers needing to get back into the pits. Our top 3 are the only ones needing to actually get into the pits. So top 3 needs to get their pit stop done and dusted. 25 minutes left of our pit stop window, 26 minutes left of the race. Darius stuck behind Chris Wiggins, who's looking to put an absolute charge on his debut outing right here in the Platinum Division against Darius, who is second of the Diamonds, going and really putting in a huge effort. Christoph Peterson now into the pits. This is going to help Darius a little bit to go for, hopefully, the undercut. Glenn Smith is going to carry on the pace, though. Glenn Smith not going into the pits. Will Dave Young go into the pits? That is another question that's come in, because looks like, yep, Dave Young's going to pull into the pits. So Glenn Smith going and really stretching his legs at the moment to try and get ahead of Christoph Peterson, Dave Young, and Chris Wiggins at the moment. Chris Wiggins keeping ahead of Darius, who had to actually slow up a little bit there to get right behind Wiggins, losing a bit of time. But Wiggins will be pulling him along in places, but losing out time on the way through. Christoph Peterson now rolling, and at the moment, Chris Wiggins and Darius just coming out of the final corner. They will not be able to catch Christoph Peterson. They've gotten close to him, and they will go right behind. So Christoph Peterson has nullified the undercut of Darius, and now Chris Wiggins keeping Darius at bay as they fight it out. Darius really trying to get underneath that 296, and it's very interesting to see the 488 Evo that was replaced by the 296 having a difficult time in terms of GT3s, and that is because the BOP between them, the balance of performance we talk about, is so close between the cars. Darius dives up on the inside of Chris, forcing Chris out wide, and Chris trying to come back at him, but just couldn't get the hammer down to get past. So Darius has lost out that little bit of time and will be looking to try and close it up. Blake Moore just ahead of them will keep him in the mirrors. So let's take a look at the running order as our drivers go through. Glenn Smith now pulling into the pits, will be losing out that top spot. So it'll be Christoph Peterson, Darius, Chris Wiggins, Michael Castro, Chris Wall, Thomas Morton, along with Mahath Musa, Sean Skitter, Lucas Collop, Dave Young, David Roth, Martin Spritzer, Flo Skip, Patrick Bells, Skurt Reynolds, Lewis Knight, Nicholas Porras, Nico Lawrence, Christoph Rolutsky, Ike Sky, and Blake Moore rounding out our pack. And so far, the running order is Christoph Peterson ahead for our Diamonds, with Darius running in second place and Michael Castro in third, followed by Chris Wall, Thomas Morton, and Mahath Musa, and Sean Skitter for our Diamonds. Looking at our Platinums, though, it's still going to be an interesting one where Glenn Smith is going to come out, and I do think Chris Wiggins may actually get a lap on him as they make their way through. And let's take a look if Glenn Smith is going to drop down. Yeah, he's going to drop down to second. So Chris Wiggins, first of our Platinum. Glenn Smith, second of our Platinum. Then further down in 10th position, Lucas Collop is third of our Platinum, followed by David Young and Martin Spritzer going and rounding out that pack. Then first of our Golds, David Roth, followed by Flo Skip, Patrick Bells, along with Skurt Reynolds chasing him down. Lewis Knight a little bit further down. Nicholas Porras a little bit down the order. And Ike and Blake Moore going and rounding out our Gold Championship. Thomas Morton onto the back of Chris Wall as they chase down the final 22 minutes of this race. And it's all or nothing at this point for our drivers to really lean into the fight, ensure that they can keep going as it turns into a proper battle for the drivers. Chris Wall having a difficult time as Thomas tries to battle it out. Really looking left and right, trying to see where they can get the momentum going. Thomas just getting a little bit unsteady on the power as he fights his way through, losing a lot of time, runs out a bit wide there. And Chris Wall will say thank you to that. Carries on the momentum. Dave Young with David Roth trying to have a good go at him. Martin Spritzer and Flo Scrab are also close to one another. Those are the three closest battles at the moment. Everyone else going and running what this track does. It tends to open the drivers up. You just kind of find your flow at this as it ebbs and flows throughout the race. You're going to have to see where it all works out. Who will be able to carry enough momentum to the end. David Roth and Dave Young having a good go with one another. Nicholas Porras going and running out a little bit wide. Actually running out very, very wide. And sporting that damage to the car. Not having an easy time out there. You can see just really battling with the car. He's only 10 seconds ahead of Nico Lawrence at the moment. But Nico is starting to close up that gap by quite a mile at this point. So, championships are on the line. Christoph Peterson will be looking to maximize his points and open up that gap to Darius at the moment, who has had a few rough races. And let's take you back to the beginning of the season. Was running in the Platinum class due to a very poor season in Season 10, while Christoph Peterson went on to win Season 10 and become the champion for that. Darius was put down into Platinum, so he's joined into Diamond later this season and having to claw his way back through the order. Chris Wiggins, brand new to the world of our golds and silvers. Our gold and platinums is on a proper charge. He's been doing a great time out there to just move his way up through the order. So let's see how he's going to be able to keep it all on the charge. I do have to say, I do see him moving up into the platinums come the end of it. Glenn Smith, though, is going and closing that gap down, so don't count Glenn out of it, the fight just as yet. He's running in 4th place, 2.8 seconds to Chris Wiggins, and he is making up a fair amount of time there. Michael Castro trying to close down that gap. Chris Wall dealing with Thomas Morton, but Glenn Smith has an opportunity here to win big and walk away with some good points for his championship on the way through. So let's see how that's going to go. Just a reminder about Glenn Smith at the moment, because he's done well at Indianapolis. He's Barcelona, he scored a few points. Watkins Glen lost out a lot, and Spa wasn't the greatest, but he's still 4th in the championship, carrying 38 points ahead of Nico Lawrence, who, might I add, Nico Lawrence is down in 19th position. So he's going to lose out a bit of time there, and Nico Lawrence will be usurped by the end of it. And Martin Spritzer, who is sitting on 43 points, is running so far down in 13th, and so he's going to get a bit of a knock as well. So Glenn Smith may be able to usurp into 3 positions at the moment. Camille Sun, though, is going to go tanking down due to an unfortunate landing up with a few problems. Scott Reynolds getting a little bit sideways there, and Patrick Biles, who had a little bit of a contact with Reynolds, got it all sideways. He pulled the car back, was able to keep it going, but the Mustang, the Heritage, going and fighting his way through. Reynolds really laying in for the fight at the moment, trying to move his way up through the order. It's going to have a difficult time out there as they battle their way through. Not going to be an easy time. Drivers will have to focus on the charge. Patrick trying to carry a lot of momentum to try and break away from that Mustang. And Flowscope dealing with the like of Martin Spritzer at the moment. Martin chasing him down, really laying into the back of him and seeing whether he can get that pass done and dusted. Flo hoping that he could just get it all sorted. Oh, a little bit too late on the brakes. Takes evasive maneuvers. Patrick Biles runs out wide and he deals with Reynolds around the outside. Both of them going to go side by side though, and it does look like the Mustang able to sweep across the nose of the BMW of Patrick. So Patrick going to have to take a deep breath there, moves himself back into the order. We've lost another car, unfortunately, down to 22. Sky, a little bit slower, is in 21st position overall, with Blake Moore trying to chase him down. But Sky's had a nightmare of a race at the moment as he fights for his rights and lives. Thomas Morton onto the back of Chris Wall, trying to make his way up through the order. Chris Wall really standing on the gas, and Thomas Morton tries to look for the inside line. Looking inside, looking outside, can't get the pass done as yet. Carrying a lot of momentum on the way through as they fight their way through. Thomas gets it absolutely together at this point, really focusing on the charge to get right behind Chris Wall as quick as possible. And Chris just carrying that little bit more momentum to carry everything through. Not going to be an easy time. Chris Wall just leading on, with Thomas hanging in there. Goes out wide. Both cars running out very, very wide. That is going to be looking at a little bit of a problem on the long run of it. So they're going to be so careful not to go and get track limits. They cannot get a drive through this late into the race. 16 minutes left of this race, and it is absolutely turning into a nightmare of a race for some, and for others this has turned into the best race of them all. Glenn Smith all over the back of Chris Wiggins. They are fighting it out for the top spot in the Platinum class, and Chris Wiggins on his debut outing is battling against Glenn Smith, who is really trying to score big to move himself up the order at the moment, as he lies 4th in the championship with so much on the line. If he can maximize the points here today, he will walk away with an absolute bag full of points that can jump him up not only one position, but looking at 2 positions by the end of this race. It's going to have to be a close one. It's going to be a hard fight to get it all sorted out. But our drivers really leading into a fight, seeing where they can make up that little bit of time. Chris Wiggins really trying to battle his way out. He's not having an easy time out there. Glenn Smith has really dialed it up to 10 and really has put that 2 ID in for a fight. Gets right onto the tail, tries to get on the power a little bit earlier, and really closing down at a rate of knots. Chris Wiggins now needs to get very defensive. He's got to get a little bit elbows out here. Moving to the left side of the track. That's going to open up the inside line. Glenn Smith puts his nose in, tries to get it done. Down the gears he goes. Really feathering the throttle through. Comes and straightens up. Not able to go and close up. Chris Wiggins is going to fight him out into the braking zone. And side by side they go, with still very, very close. Both running to the fringes of the circuit. Wiggins not able to carry the momentum through, loses out that spot, but man oh man, he puts in that fight. Thomas Morton gets a spin though, and Chris Wall gets past. Mahayath Musa says thank you very much. He scores a pass, but Martin Spritzer and Blake Moore landing up in a bit of an issue. And the 612 getting a bit of a turnaround. So Martin Spritzer, I think, maybe overcooked it a little bit in the Lamborghini as he made his way through. Did he drop a wheel on the dirt? This is a replay. Oh, snap oversteer on the way through, and it does turn him around. And that was pretty much that for the 612. Blake Moore in the Mustang, he also had a difficult time landing up in the dirt on the brakes. Tries to bring it in. Did he get a snap oversteer? Over the curbs on the power, and that rear lit up underneath him and spun him around. A bit of a lazy slide, and unfortunately cost him a little bit of time as well. So drivers going and trying to make their way through, each having a difficult time. Mahayath Musa now 1.8 seconds to Chris Wall, and Thomas Milton chasing him down. He's lost out 2 positions on his run. So Mahayath Musa will have to really give it horns at the moment to catch up to Chris Wall, who is starting to open up that gap little by little on the way through. Takes a wide line into Magaton Beckett, and Blake Moore with a drive-through penalty getting issued to him. Unfortunately, track limits being an absolute decider for a lot of our drivers at the moment. Thomas Milton gaining a lot of time at the moment, really trying to close up that gap as fast as possible, as drivers really try and dial it all in at the moment. Thomas has got Mahayath Musa just leading ahead of him. doing everything he can. Chris Wall hoping they can carry a bit more momentum as they battle their way through. But so far, leader of the pack, Christoph Peterson, Darius, Glenn Smith, Chris Wiggins, Michael Castro, Chris Wall, Mahath Musa, Thomas Moulton, along with Sean Skitter, Lucas Kolob, Dave Young, along with David Roth, Flo Skip, Skirt Reynolds, Patrick Bells, Lewis Knight, Martin Spritzer, Nicholas Poes, in 19th position, Nico Lawrence, Christoph Rodsky, Ike Sky, and Blake Moore, rounding out our ongoing pack. And we do have a few retirements, unfortunately, and some of them just throwing in the towel because they just didn't see the end of it. That's why I've got to take my hat off to Blake Moore, who is still sticking in for the fight at the moment. He wants to really keep on going and ensure that he's not throwing in the towel just as yet. Got to give a big round of applause for him on that one, because it's absolutely great to see the drivers moving their way forward. Thomas trying to close up that gap, 1.8 seconds to Mahath Musa. Mahath Musa 1.3 seconds to Chris Wall. 6th, 7th and 8th, all close to one another. Michael Castro starting to try and catch up onto the back of Chris Wiggins. And Chris running second of the Platinum class, having to deal with Glenn Smith, opening up a 3.3 second gap to him on the run. So Glenn Smith really turned up the wick, got the power on, and absolutely gunned it past. And sure, he hasn't got a problem. Lewis Knight, though, going and losing out a little bit of time, and has Martin Spitzer gain that little bit of position back. So the number 6 not having an easy time there. Lewis Knight in the number 6 Godzilla running second in the championship. And did he put a wheel wrong? Goes up wide, puts wheel in the dirt. Yeah, unfortunately a beautiful pirouette to bring it back, but the tires, they are not going to like that move. Unfortunately, that dropped him down, and Martin Spritzer says thank you very much on that one. Lewis Knight really needs to try and gain as many positions. He's 5th in class at the moment. He's having to really try and dial it back up. He wants to walk away with some phenomenal points for his championship. The different classes coming into play here at ERA in the last 9 minutes and 50 seconds. It's an outright charge. Christoph Peterson, Darius, and Michael Castro are running 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of the Diamond class. Glenn Smith, Chris Wiggins, and Lucas Kolob are running 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of the Platinum. And David Roth, Skip, and Reynolds are running 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of our golds. Mahath Musa trying to make his way up. Has got Chris Wall in sight. About a second between the two of them. So Chris Wall for LNR E-Racing CJW, as for the LNR team trying to get a little bit more pace underneath him. Michael Castro onto the back of Wiggins, looking to try and make short work of him, and at least can go and put a car between himself and Chris Wall at the moment. Wiggins will try and fight it out. We've seen him go and really lean in for the fight more than once on the way through, and we'll be looking to properly keep in for the fight once again. Not going to be an easy time out there. Everyone really trying to lean on the throttle to try and gain those valuable positions, not only in class but for overall track position. Red drivers, we love to go and see the number 1 on our car overall, not just in class. Mahath Musa hunting down Chris Wall at the moment as they're fighting out for championship points. Chris Wall can go and hurt Mahath Musa in the championship here, as they really try and get a little bit more momentum. Chris Wall currently lying 6th in the championship. Had a rough race at Indianapolis and didn't score any points at Spa. Has Mahath Musa, who's running so far 3rd in the championship. So Mahath Musa is desperate to get past Chris Wall and try and catch up to Castro to at least get 3rd place. But Chris Wall is 10 seconds off Castro and is on a super defense against Mahath Musa as they make their way through. That is going to help Thomas Moulton in the Mustang to close up on these two as they fight more and more. Mahath Musa really goes deep on the brakes, tries to bring it all back. Chris Wall just carrying the momentum through, runs out a little bit wide, gets on the power, really gets that rear to turn in and moves his way up. Not an easy time as our drivers absolutely fight it out at the moment. Chris Wall, Mahaith Musa doing everything they can to really move it up through the order. Mahaith Musa tries to get into the toe, switches around early for Magaton Beckett. It's going to go the outside, trying to sweep underneath Chris Wall. It's going to be a little bit slower, but just going and soaring away at the wheel. Not able to get that pass done and dusty. You can see throwing the BMW around to just see if he can look for an anyway pass. At the moment, Chris Wall on a monster defense tries to keep the like of Mahaith Musa at bay. Mahaith Musa looks at the inside line, just going and darting around a little bit, seeing where is there an opportunity to get this pass done and dusted as they carve their way through hard on the brakes onto the front bump stops. Chris Wall not deterred by Mahaith Musa as it stands. Michael Castro all over the back of Chris Wiggins now. 0.8 of a second between the two of them. Mahaith Musa up on the inside. Second guesses it. Not going to pull Lewis Hamilton and a Max Verstappen this time around. Going to rather carry the momentum through and work on the longer game here. Going to try go for the undercut in and out before they go on to the short straight. Into the toe. Carry a lot of momentum. Pull yourself along. Keep it absolutely planted through the little left-hander. And now it is all about the slipstream on the way through. You want to try and line yourself up for the inside line. Pulls out a little bit early and outbrakes himself. Takes him for a late apex on that one. So unfortunately, pulled out a tad bird early on the straight, and that compromised and allowed Chris Wall to have a little bit more breathing room on the run through. Michael Castro going and fighting Chris Wiggins at the moment. Runs out a little bit wide, trying to get as much momentum into Magaton Beckett. Michael Castro looks around the outside, couldn't quite get the pass. Chris Wiggins going to hold the position and really do everything he can at this point to just keep it going. You see Castro sliding the Porsche around, getting rather uncomfortable behind the like of Chris Wiggins and losing out a lot of momentum there. Tells me that his car is losing a lot of front aerodynamic push on the nose, and that is just making the rear step out underneath him. Tries to go around the outside, get as much momentum. Another snap as he gets on the power. And Wiggins is really going and giving him a great fight at this point. For a debut outing, he has done an absolute phenomenal job. Michael Castro has been on form and is going and pulling out all the stops at this point, lying third in class, but is also showing exactly why he can go for the championship, and Wiggins is keeping him firmly at bay. So you got Castro on form at the top of his game versus Chris Wiggins, who is going and showing off his debut run. Tries to go for the defense, stuck around the outside, and managing just to out-accelerate the Porsche as they make their way through. Michael Castro not going to give up at this point. He's going to try and carry the momentum through a little bit further as they battle their way on. Tremendous, tremendous stuff. It's going to be a proper time. He's not going to give up. He's going to fight it out. Michael Castro gets ahead of Chris Wiggins right at the end as they fight their way through. Blake Moore getting a bit of support and going and saying, you can fight your way back there, Blake. So Blake Moore getting a bit of support from our virtual grandstands. Always fantastic to see the support coming in for our drivers. And that is from Formula One. Going and putting in the massive support for Blake Moore. Mahaith Musa chasing down Chris Wall, hoping they can score a position as we down into the last 3 minutes of the race. It's all or nothing for our drivers to really get it all together. Mahaith Musa will have to do everything he can to just try and carry a little bit more momentum. Gets right into the toe of Chris Wall, trying to pull himself along. Gets really tucked in there. Will it be enough though? Carrying a lot of momentum through. Looking towards the outside. Chris Wall moves back to center and ensures that Mahaith Musa is not going to have an easy time. Mahaith couldn't even get the nose underneath him because Chris Wall going and holding that apex and ensuring it's not going to happen in the last running stages of the race. Fighting for 6th overall. These two only separated by 0.2 of a second. Mahaith Musa, though, gets a drive. He dives up on the inside, gets pressured by Chris Wall to try and back off. And the BMW just keeping him at bay. So Chris Wall in the Aston Martin AMR V8 battling against the BMW of Mahaith Musa, who's really trying to hunt down for that pass and really can't get his shoulders out big enough to stay in the fight as they really claw their way through, running 4th in the current standings for the Diamond class. Glenn Smith 1st of our Platinum, with Wiggins running 2nd and Collop running 3rd of our Platinums. David Roth, Scub and Reynolds are running 1st, 2nd and 3rd of our Gold division. Chris Wall just defending against Mahaith Musa, doing everything he can to just try and keep him at bay. Mahaith Musa going and really focusing on a hard charge at the moment. Chris Wall doing every bit that he has possible to battle it out as they fight their way through. It's going to be an outright charge between them. Who's going to be able to make up that little bit of time? Mahaith Musa looks to go around the outside. Magaton Beckett, is he going to be able to get it done? Couldn't quite get it all hooked in. Going to carry a lot of momentum through. Paces it down towards the center, into the right-hander. Trying to carry a lot of momentum up the gear as he goes. And pit window is now closed. 4th gear out of Magaton Beckett onto the hanger straight. And now chasing down Chris Wall. Doing everything he can. Mahaith Musa just moving out of that slipstream ever so lightly. Chris Wall gets a little bit unsteady. Mahaith Musa tries to bring him back. A little bit of contact between the two. 4th side by side they go. Hard on the anchors, and Chris Wall managing to just defend at the moment. These two are going to war with one another. Mahaith Musa trying to straighten the car out. Force Chris Wall to back out. Chris is going to go side by side, powering their way through. A little bit of contact there. And now Thomas has clawed in along with Sean Skitter as they're in the last 18 seconds. Mahaith Musa and Chris Wall still fighting it out. Thomas and Sean Skitter has got into the mix. Skitter tries to go around the outside. Thomas couldn't quite get that pass done and dusted. And it is going to be an absolute fight between them. Skitter puts on Chris Wall and Musa will fight it out. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th position as they close down on the last little bit. Christoph Peterson is on our final lap, but we are watching a full car train fight it out here with no one willing to relent, no one willing to give, no one wanting to lose out to one another. They know that it's 7 rounds and this is round 5. Points are absolutely needed for every single one of them to get into that top 10, to stay within the fight for the championship. Mahaith Musa, running 3rd in the championship, needs to hold his position as much as possible. Chris Wall looking to usurp him. Thomas Mouton hoping that he can keep up the fight. Looks to go around the outside of Chris Wall. Couldn't get it all booked in. And Chris Wall will get a little bit of information from Sean Skitter, his teammate, the L&R McLaren, chasing down the Mustang. Looks to try and get a little bit more momentum as they come out of Magaton Beckett's, really gunning it at this point. Skitter hoping that he can get past the Mustang. Going to be a hard work as they charge their way through. Chris Wall, a little bit later on the brakes, tries to carry a lot of momentum up against the back of Mahaith Musa. Thomas Mouton runs out wide. Skitter following suit as well as they battle their way through. David Roth, though, goes off into the dirt. Blake Moore pulls into the pits. David Roth will be losing out a bit of time there, but Blake Moore, unfortunately, gets into the pits. He lands up with a problem. Chris Wall, Thomas Mouton, Sean Skitter, all finding out. No, it's the final lap, and it's nothing to be left on the table at this point. So Blake Moore, unfortunately, having a problem and lost the rear of the car. But now, Mouton side by side with the likes of Chris Wall, as we do here. Christoph Peterson getting the win. Darius will get 2nd. Glenn Smith into 3rd. Thomas Mouton gets by. Chris Wall goes in. Sean Skitter goes and gets past. But Thomas gets the pass done and dusted. The 21 gets a pass on the 4. Chris Wall getting caught out there. Let's quickly go back and take a look. Thomas Mouton all over the back of Chris Wall. Chris tries to go defensive. The Mustang turning across Bargy on the way through. Runs out wide, sweeps up on the inside. Oh, just tags him on the rear. And Sean Skitter gets the contact on the way through there. So Thomas Morton ahead of Sean Skitter, and Chris Wall will be coming across. Not going to be too happy with that. Glenn Smith, though, going to be happy getting first of the Platinum class. Chris Wiggins on his debut run gets second. Lucas Collab getting third in class, followed by Dave Young. Christoph Peterson for our Diamond class will get ahead of Darius and Michael Castro. Once done, a fantastic job. We'll finish up in third. Mahath Musa in fourth. Then David Roth will come across the line. He gets a win for the gold division. Ahead of Flo Scab, who will take second place in gold, and Reynolds taking the likes of third after very, very hard work in the Mustang. Martin Spritzer runs across the line with Patrick Bells, Lewis Knight, Nico Lawrence, Nicholas Polos, along with Christoph Rolotsky, Elk Sky, and Blake Moore rounding out our pack. So some great racing nonetheless, and a bit of controversy right at the end for the likes of Chris Wall, Thomas Morton, and Sean Skitter. That is going to go down to our stewards. That is for certain. That being said, let's go back to our commentary box and see some of the racing out after a phenomenal race. Wow, oh wow. Was that an absolute blazer for our drivers? And I know there's going to be quite a few people rather happy with how the race turned out and how it all got their way to the top end of the pack. Been an absolutely incredible one, folks, but now that it's come to an end, we've got to take a look at the race nonetheless of who went and came where, and have a chat to our drivers after a huge amount of hard work. So let's take a look at some of the highlights, with Christoph Peterson taking the overall win for Server 1 and the overall win for the Pro, well, the Platinum, sorry, the Diamond. So maximizing his run. He's had a great time there. Glenn Smith stretching the gap for his run and done a great job. So first of the drivers to come and have a chat to us is going to be Darius, second place overall and scoring second in class. Darius, welcome, and absolutely phenomenal work on your side. You got second in class, second in the race, but not an easy fight nonetheless.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, it was a bit hard, and I think in the pace drop you kind of noticed that I was nursing 4 track cuts for 40 odd minutes.
We noticed it started creeping in on quite a few of the drivers, having that problem of track cuts becoming an issue. Take us through the race, though. It looks like you were on pace, you were going, and then obviously the track cuts started becoming more and more of an issue. But the traffic that you guys had to filter through, you had to go through quite a few scraps. You had these battles for positions, and you're having to gently maneuver your way through, knowing that Michael Castro is actually starting to make up a bit of time on you.
I think the most scariest moment was when I got 2 of my track cuts into turn 1. I mean, to be fair, I took them and I knew I took them. The third one was out of the Vale chicane on the outskirts. So basically I ran a bit wide and I've lost time, and the game just decided, nah, you're getting a track cut anyway, and I was sitting there like, oh great, thank you for nothing. And then with the traffic, I nearly lost it through the S's once or twice, and Castro was creeping in ever closer, but still had that 10-second time penalty looming over his head. And I was like, okay, I can play this safe. If I don't throw away and don't get a DT, I can play this safe for maybe a P2. And so basically I just dialed it down by 10%. And just tried to finish the race. And then Mr. Wiggins decided not to take tyres on the pit stop and overtook me in the pits, and I was like, how did that happen? That surprised me a bit. That caught me off guard.
Chris Wiggins going and racing in the Platinum class has really put on a great show. But After let's go and talk about the elephant in the room. After Spa, which was a race to forget. How are you feeling?
Yes.
You feel like you've got your stride back? I mean, you went into into this race tied with Mahath Musa in points, 48-48. Mahath Musa finishing fourth behind the likes of Michael Castro, which means that you have got a bit of breathing room to the likes of Mahath Musa in third place. But do you feel that you've finally gone and got that monkey off your back? You've chased Murphy out of the pits, and Lady Luck is now back singing your song.
I don't know, Steve. I don't know. The thing is, I tried to keep up with Peterson, but that didn't work. And me being stupid and the game thinking better than putting fuel into my car around Spa did not help the exact case, because I spent the entire time actually learning Spa, because I was never that good at Spa. But somehow it kind of clicked, and for the race to end in the way it did, it was quite horrible for me. I was in quite the foul mood. So Silverstone had to be kind of the redemption, and it kind of was.
Well,
I knew I had the pace, the track cuts being there, that kind of fucked my strategy, and trying to push to get closer to Christoph and maybe undercut him through the 5-second penalty. But, well, it is what it is. Still a P2, I can live with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely tremendous stuff. Well, Darius, incredible stuff. Well done on the P2, but anything you would like to say to all our petrol heads out there watching live and in the future, and also to our amazing partners, IMB Racewear being one of them, going and supporting here at ERA. The floor is yours on that second place.
Drive the old Ferrari, it's the better one. That's the only thing I've got to say.
I have to agree. The 488 looks better, sounds better, and just works.
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much, Darius.
Thanks for having me, Stephen.
Great stuff. And wow, well done on that second place. Well, let's move up to Christoph Peterson to have a chat to him. A dominating win nonetheless, and he's going to be smiling ear to ear. Christoph, well done on your race. Absolutely tremendous stuff. And coming off a back of a Spa race that worked in your favor to get away from a lot of your championship contenders, and now getting the win once again here at Spa. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I put a lot more effort into practice this time, and my car was also in a way better place because Silverstone puts a lot of load on the tires, and that because of that I could open the brake ducts a bit more, so I had more braking performance and good tires, which helped me a bit. And yeah, so I'm feeling super great. It all worked out perfectly as I wanted to.
Well, you broke away from Darius off the start and you just kept going. Did at any point you feel that your pace was starting to taper off? Did you feel at any point that I can maybe lift off the throttle here, I haven't got too much of a problem?
I pushed all the race basically, and especially the first I don't know how many laps it was, maybe 7-8 laps or something. That was really intense. I was completely driving on the edge, trying to not overdrive my tires, because my plan was to go a bit longer this time in the first stint, but still create at least like 3 or 4 seconds to Darius, so I could stay close after the pit stop. And I feared a bit that it would be like Barcelona again, because he just kept holding this 2-second gap over many laps, and I just couldn't extend it anymore. But then there was one mistake on his side and a lot of track cuts that played in my favor, so it was a bit easier after that. But also my strategy worked out basically as I wanted it to, because I went 35 minutes into the first stint and then wanted to use the rubbered in track to get a little bit of a tire advantage if I had to fight anyone. And that was visible in my pace in the second stint, I think, because I was driving like 57 once all the way. So yeah, everything worked out to plan basically.
Well, I gotta say, tremendous racing like there, and great one for you. But now round 5 is over, moving on to round 6 coming up, and then our final round. I mean, 7-round championship is not a lot of time to go for the win. You are the one with the biggest target on your back, holding the crown after winning Season 10. Do you feel like you may be able to walk away with the crown for Season 11?
Yeah, I considered this race the most important of the season probably, because I had a 8 points gap, and if one of my two rivals would have won this, I think it would look very, very tight in the last two races. And now it's, I think, a 12 points gap. A 12 points gap is still not enough to just walk away with it. But I think I don't need to win another race, so I think I'm in the best position.
Absolutely tremendous stuff. Well done on a phenomenal run, and anything you would like to say to our amazing petrol heads and all our amazing partners right here at ERA for the Sunday Championship Season 11.
Same as always, thank you to everyone who watches the stream. Thank you to our sponsors of LNR and ERA, and thanks to my team for making this an amazing season once again. And thanks to you, of course, for the broadcast. So hopefully see you next week.
It's going to be a tremendous one. Christoph, well done, and can't wait to see you next week. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been an incredible one. We did have Glenn pop in very quickly, and I saw that unfortunately he left. Would have been nice to have a chat to him after a phenomenal effort on his part for going and fighting it out and getting the win for the 2ID in the Platinum Division. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much for joining us here tonight at ERA. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon, and keep an eye out with all the racing. We did have Server 2 being broadcast, and you definitely want to go take a look at that. That is where more of our AM drivers, the beginners, are getting to have some fun, and they get to show it off. And also, if you're very interested in coming and joining in on training days and also on some race days, we have a variety of racing here at ERA. Just go down to the link below. You'll see the ERA website. Go and take a look at Evolution Racing Academy. Join us out on Discord and come and have a huge amount of fun, or talk a load of rubbish. We actually love it. Getting that interaction is always fantastic. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much for joining us. And like always, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.